The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The Department of Health says strict lockdowns don't seem to be effective in controlling the spread of COVID-19 cases in Regions 7 and 10. Gerard de la Peña now joins us live from Mandaluyong to give us more details on this. Gerard, good afternoon. Could you tell us what happened in Regions 7 and 10?
Well, Charles, the health department is now in talks with health and local government officials from Region 7 and 10. This after infections of COVID-19 remained elevated in the areas even after imposing strict lockdowns. This was confirmed by Health Secretary Francisco Duque III in an online forum on the safe opening of the economy. Secretary Duque, who talked about the government's initiatives to contain the spread of COVID-19, said he had to leave earlier than scheduled as he had an emergency meeting with officials from Region 7 and 10. Duque said there seems to be no improvement even if Iloilo City, Iloilo Province, Cagayan de Oro, and Misamis Oriental were placed under enhanced community quarantine last month. MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos, on the other hand, reported that 70% of Metro Manila residents are already vaccinated. Although the DOH said that threshold level that would determine herd immunity would depend on the R0 or the rate of secondary infections from a single infection, which could go to as high as 80%. Abalos said that there are more than 3,600 sites in NCR that are currently under granular lockdowns to curb the spread of COVID-19. The business community, on the other hand, is still pushing for greater mobility for those who have already received the full dose of COVID-19 vaccines. Secretary Duque said he is supportive of the move, but the Justice Department, which is also part of the IITF, said that this proposal may have legal implications. That's because this would mean that a greater portion of the population will be deprived of basic rights such as riding public transportation or going to commercial establishments. Other groups likewise said that this is discriminatory considering that vaccines are not yet widely available. Charles Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion, who espouses freer mobility for those who have already received their vaccine, said that he will come up with data from Singapore so that the country may have a template on how this is done. Charles.
Thanks for that, Gerard. That was Gerard de la Peña reporting live from Mandaluyong. A WHO advisor warns countries experiencing COVID-19 outbreaks to hold off on easing restrictions until their younger populations are vaccinated. This follows a weekend of record new cases in Australia's New South Wales, spreading outbreaks in Victoria State, as well as in New Zealand. Mayor Louise McLaws discusses more on Bloomberg Daybreak Australia. Let's listen in.
We now have the third wave. It's a very strong third wave. We've now got a total of 44,028 cases across from the first wave, and this third wave is probably the worst wave, as happens around the world. And so the elderly are more protected, and of course 85% of over 60s have had at least one dose, which is great, stops them from dying. But if you have a look at the young, and in New South Wales is where the epicenter of Delta is at the moment, 68% are young, very, very young. And so what we're seeing, of course, is those under 39 have had very little access to the vaccine. So there's only 13% in all of Australia of under 39 and under have had 2 doses. In New South Wales, that's about 19%. So, of course, this young group are suffering 68% of all cases, and yet they are not given enough doses yet. And apparently, very soon, at the end of this month, they'll start to be the focus of the vaccine rollout, but they actually should be the focus right now if you want to cut the infection transmission cycle. So the way out of this is focusing epidemiologically on the young, under 40.
Yeah, particularly when you think about the mobility of that demographic, right? Mary Louise, the Prime Minister has said once we get to 70 and 80%, then states need to start thinking about loosening restrictions of fully vaccinated population, I should say. What does this look like to you in a responsible way? And is that fully vaccinated, including children? Again,
Haiti, what I would suggest to the powers that be is that if they're going to look at that level of 70 or 80%, they should actually be focusing not of the total population, because that in effect is about 1 in 2 people who aren't going to be vaccinated, or 1 in 3 when you look at it across the total population, because he's talking about only the 16 years and over. So, but yet 100% of the population are at risk of COVID. So one way of being able to open up more safely is to actually get 80% of the under 40-year-olds vaccinated. That's the 16 to 39 at the moment legally are allowed to receive a vaccine in Australia. The 12 to 15-year-olds have had approval to receive Pfizer, but they're only if they're from a very special population group, and yet they should be vaccinated.
With the pandemic causing financial uncertainties for many people, practical gifts are becoming a trend nowadays, and even the traditional bouquet has a new twist for those who love receiving cold cash. Faith Del Mundo tells us more in this report.
The common Tagalog phrase, sana all, may be your initial reaction when seeing somebody receiving cold hard cash, particularly during these times. That's exactly what this wife received on her special day. Marijo didn't expect sweet gifts such as flowers from her husband on her 49th birthday, but she was blown away as she received a bouquet with 100,000 peso cash, which her husband Nap says have been taken from his savings.
Super na surprise. Unexpected yun eh. Tears of joy. Tsaka na yun nga. Kasi una, nung nakita ko yung magdi-deliver, sabi ko, ay flower. Inilabas na. Ayun na, no. Naiiyak. Kasi nga, ano eh, talagang surprise. Pinilig ako doon sa pera. Sabi ko.
Nap thought of a gift that would astound his wife with the help of their kids. It was even more special since she had been through a lot during these trying times.
Yun nga, no, we've been in quarantine for almost 2 years na, di ba? So, yun, yung everyday routine namin, ako work from home, tapos yung mga bata, online schooling. So, yung everyday task dito sa bahay, siya yung laging gumagawa. Siya yung nag-asikaso sa bahay. Yun nga, since medyo depressing yung time because of, yun nga, nagkaroon din kami ng mga challenges during this pandemic time. Na wala yung mother ko. Tapos, we lost a business. No? So, talagang, kumbaga, you will need to think of something na to brighten the situation.
Practical gifts such as money bouquets are becoming a trend nowadays, even amid the economic crisis brought by the pandemic. Hannah de Guzman and her mother took chances, using different approaches to save their flower shop business.
Ano din eh, may mga feedback na, kunwari magpo-post kami ng mga bouquet, sasabihin, naku, huwag mo lang akong bigyan ng ganyan. Gusto ko bigas na lang, ganyan. So parang yung mga tao ngayon, lalo na nag-lockdown, medyo mahirap ang buhay. So parang gusto nila is practical na mga regalo. And sakto naman, yung money bouquet, talagang pinag-ipunan naman yon. Tapos nung ibinigay, di ba talagang nakakatawa kasi dami magagawa doon sa 100,000 kumpara sa puro bulaklak lang siya.
Hannah thinks that while everyone seems to be in need of cash aid, there are still others who have capability to give and want it to be handed over in a very special way. That's where her field of expertise comes in.
Ang ginagawa lang talaga namin, fresh flowers. So medyo mabilis lang yung gawin, mga 30 minutes, tapos na, minsan less pa. Kasi itong money bouquet, kasi first time namin siyang gawin, parang gumagawa kami ng mga 6 p.m., ganyan, nung gabi kinagabihan. Tapos kami mga 10, kasi iisa-isahin mo siyang irolyo, tapos ilalagay mo pa siya sa stick. Tapos kinabukasan ng umaga, before namin dalhin, doon pa lang namin ina-arrange kasama yung mga bulaklak. So, mga natapos kami before 10. So, medyo nasa 4, 5, 6, mga 5 hours to 8. Parang ganun siya.
Hannah's money bouquet business also assures their customers that the cash money they use in the arranged bouquets will be properly handled in compliance with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Presidential Decree number 247, which prohibits acts of defacement of Philippine currency. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. Octa Research says the growth rate in new COVID-19 cases from Metro Manila is decreasing. But the country logged over 16,000 new cases over the weekend for the third straight day. And after losing to Yordenis Ugas, People's Champ Manny Pacquiao hints at retirement. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us again later at 2 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.